Well, welcome to another episode of the Grazing Sheep Podcast. I'm your host, Big Tom Perkins, along with Dr. Cameron Meyerly. And we're going to kick off season 3 here. And it's coming into winter. We're coming up to our conferences and all that fun stuff. Are you going to the Ohio Shepherd Symposium?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to try since it's where I live. Feel like it's good to go up and represent and get to pal around and discuss with other producers in the same region. I think that's important. And then also the ASI convention has moved up to early January and planning to head out there.
Yeah, that symposium is December 2nd, I think.
Yeah, I think by the time this comes out, you'll have about 4 days to get everything signed up and
Yeah.
get over there.
That's
But
right. So I thought I should bring it up. I should have brought it up last week.
but
And
right.
then the Ohio Grazing Conference is the last Thursday and Friday of January. And
And why do you know that one's going on?
because I'm actually speaking there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right,
that's in Mount
right.
Hope, Ohio. So
Yeah,
you want to come out, come on out. I'm the last speaker of the day on Friday.
yeah. And you had gone last year, correct? And pretty good information.
Yeah, man, I couldn't believe how many people were there. I bet there was 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
It was insane how many people were there. And the food was fantastic. And I think it's like $35 or $40 for 2 days.
Oh
It,
wow. So super affordable.
it's super affordable, and if you don't listen to anybody all day, just the food that was there was just worth it. There was food out all day long. They just kept putting more stuff
Really?
out. Oh my goodness, yeah. At
Yeah, that's
lunchtime,
not
I
bad.
wasn't even hungry. I didn't even eat dinner the first night because I just eaten all day. It was insane. So I'm not speaking at the Ohio Shepherd Symposium. I'm just going to sit there quietly.
Quietly. Yeah, and it's nice. I know. I think we both were in attendance last year. You know, you find you're kind of like-minded producers, and you end up just finding those clicks and
Yeah.
sitting discussing for the whole day. And I think this year it's only a 1 day event,
Yes.
but should be good. They've got a lineup of talks scheduled for that Saturday. I think mostly focusing around nutrition and should be good. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And like you said, we're gonna try to get up there and see you on that Saturday. But for 30-40 bucks at the grazing conference, I might have to look into that.
It's an event. It's worth going. It really is. It is heavily attended by the Amish community.
Yep, plain
So,
sect.
so much so that when I walked in, I thought, is this an Amish only thing? Am I not
Yeah,
supposed
oh,
to
great. Great. That's too funny. Yeah, we need to get you a hat. One of
Yeah.
those hats, and
Well,
it
I'd have to shave my mustache off, you know.
yeah, you'd have
I
to get
don't
rid of
have
the
like that.
mustache, and you could either go with the black or blue toboggan,
Yes.
or you could go with the straw, the traditional hat.
Yeah.
Um, or one of the interesting things, and this is way off topic here, but uh, during my time at Penn State, down in the southeastern part of the state, what I refer to as the Amish Mafia, because I had never seen there's a plain sect of, um, I don't know if you'd call it a denomination that wears a woven fedora,
Oh yeah.
and it totally threw me off guard.
Yeah.
Um, because it was like, yeah, we do not have these where I grew up. Like I've not seen one of these before.
No, I don't
In
think I've
terms of the
seen those
hat, we
either.
had plenty of Amish, but it was very interesting. All the different kind of breakdowns of that group of people, but a lot of good sheep producers within that group.
Yeah, so it's so part of why I bring this up is because I had planned my lambing season around conference season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the goal is to have all my lambing not start until I get back from Mount Hope for the Ohio Grazing Conference, and to have all my lambing done with that first group by the time I go to the Appalachian Grazing Conference and in down oh, not WVU, was it Morgantown?
Yeah. And I think it's there every year. Is that correct?
No, that's every other year.
Every other year.
Yep.
Okay.
So this year it's on. Fred Provenza is their featured speaker, keynote speaker, I guess.
Okay.
He's always interesting to listen to. And then
Might have to run down and do a podcast live from
we
that.
we
From that
absolutely
deal.
could. And then
And that's in March.
yeah, and then I think it's the week after that is the Western PA Grazing Conference.
Yeah, which again, if we have any listeners from Pennsylvania, I'm not gonna say just Western Pennsylvania, or even Eastern Ohio. I know I spoke at that meeting last year, and
Yeah.
very pleased at the overall size and just how that group
Yep.
carried out that meeting.
And then so when I get back from that, I should start into my second lambing season.
Okay, so you've got ewe lambs getting bred right now, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah. So that should be oh, I should have a couple of weeks, and then those lambs will start to drop. But
okay,
that's kind of where we're at. And so it's funny because we did an episode or two where we talked about a year and kind of all the things you do in that year, and that's one of the things I purposefully did was watch when I was putting rams in, because the last thing I want to do is be 100 miles from home and lambs are dropping.
right. Right. And a lot of it too has to go into getting stuff set up for
Yeah.
that lambing season. And so this is probably the first year. Normally I'd be kind of scrambling. And we're still far enough ahead. It's late November, far enough ahead that wouldn't be scrambling too much. But used to try, like growing up, to get a decent number of sheep bred during July so that they would lamb over Christmas break,
Okay.
because I knew I had the time out of school, or home from college to get to the lambing barn and pay attention to that uh, management time of year, because we were out of school. So um, shot for that. Now at this point, we're not. The direction we're going doesn't make sense for us to lamb in December. At least this year, we might do it again because I actually very much enjoy it. You kind of get it done. Those lambs are up and going and ready to either graze the ewe lambs, or all those ram lambs are out the door for that Easter market. But this year we pushed it back. NSIP flock late February, commercial ewes into April, and it's kind of nice. I've got time to finish up some projects and get the barn set up and ready to go in a fashion that isn't so last minute. So I still have time to put it off, and and that might happen, but we'll see. At least we've allowed some time to get some of that stuff done. But
Yeah, we've got about a week and a half left of that cycle to get these ewe lambs bred. And then they're going to come out of the barn and they're going to go up with the main flock. And then we'll run that main flock till about January 10th or 15th, somewhere in there. And then we'll separate those out again and bring that first group down and start grazing them close to the barn, so we can going to try to grain them in the barn, but boot them back out to graze. So we're not feeding so much hay. And we'll see how well that goes. That might be a total nightmare. But I figure even if I don't use the dog, it wouldn't take very long for me just to step out the door and call those ewes, and they would come running to the barn because they
I'm
know
running
the
in.
training.
Yeah. 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 And that's, you'd mentioned, uh, you know, preparation and kind of how we plan for that stuff and getting ready for it. What are the keys or the big things you're doing to get prepared for that lambing season?
Well, one of the things is looking at my pasture maps to see, because I'd really rather not have all those ewes clear at the other end of the farm and then have to truck them all the way back, to the barn. So we're trying to come up with a map, basically a route that we're going to graze, so we can end up pretty close to the barn when we want to do that. We want to separate out that second group from the first group. It's much easier to just do that in the barn, run them through the handling system to separate them out. Um, the other thing is, as soon as this second group comes out of the barn, I got to go in and clean all those pens out, get all that manure out of the way, give those pens a day or two just to dry up. We'll throw a little lime down, not a lot, but just a little hydrated lime, and get those pens all bedded up and ready to go again. And then go through all the jugs, make sure they're all good and secure and ready to go. And then we'll go back through and just start checking our regular supplies. Make sure we've got a tube feeder that's has all the main thing is make sure it has a tube with it.
Right, that's the big thing.
Yeah,
Now, I'm gonna I know it'll lead into a tangent here, and that's okay. But you'd mentioned your Grazing Maps app.
yeah.
What's it? What's the official title? And then, is that a free app, paid service? And do you mind giving? I've seen you use it, and so when I saw it, I was like, man, I need. If anybody's doing rotational grazing, it is a tool that I think could be very useful. That certainly trumps my pen and paper method that I'm currently using. But do you mind sharing about that for just a minute?
Yeah, I use a company called Pasture Map, and there is a free version of it, but it didn't do very much, as I recall. And I can't remember. There's like an animal limit or something like that for the free version. And then I moved up to the lowest tier that you pay for. It's $200 a year for that, and it's supposed to be 100 animal limit, but I talked to the gal and I'm like, look, 100 cows versus 100 sheep are, two totally different things. And she completely agreed and said, yeah, we'll give you like a limit of like 500 sheep, which I
Mm,
still didn't think was quite fair, but that's okay. I'd probably never be over 500 sheep, but yeah, I went in and drew all my pastures. It has a GPS thing where you can kind of stand at the corner of each one of your pastures and make a mark, and go to the next corner and make a mark, and it will draw out your pastures for you. Um, and then the biggest thing I use it for is it's just, well, it's just this overview of your farm, and you can look and see every individual pasture. And I keep the rest days up on it all the time. There's different layers, there's different things you can put on there. You could have how many days you graze each pasture if that's what you wanted to do. But I like looking at the rest periods, because I can look at the rest periods and decide which pasture I want to go to next.
mm.
And I probably use it backwards than most people do, but it'll calculate how much forage you've taken off based on the animal weight. If you keep all those numbers up to date, I'm not that interested in or worrying about that part of it. But for me,
So
it's
is there an area to plug in some forage height when
oh
entering
yeah,
that pasture, and then
yeah. You can go in there and put in, before you go into a pasture. You can put in what you estimate to be the amount of forage there, and then how much forage you want to take off, and then how many animals you're going to put in there, and what percentage. Um, I think I use like 3.5% of body weight on those ewes. and it will then tell you about how many days you could be in there if you want to take all the forage, or 75% of the forage, or 50% of the forage. But it'll calculate that all out for you. But that's not part of the tool that I use. I'd rather be out there looking at it and adjusting my sizes of paddocks for the day based on what I'm seeing, as opposed to what some computer program's telling me.
And that's obviously been the best app that you've found for what you're doing.
Yeah, the other one that's out there is at Maya Grazing. It was really set up for like Australia, and
Mm.
their every webinar you ever look at, all they talk about is you need to know when you need to destock. And that's what their whole program's about, is telling you 60 to 90 days ahead of time when you need to destock.
Mm.
Because apparently in Australia, people destock quite often. you know,
Interesting. Yeah, I
because,
mean, they have the
because
numbers
of drought.
to play around with it. Yep.
Yeah. So, and I thought they were a little more pricey and a little harder to use. But Pasture, so far the Pasture Map people have been really good. Now they've gotten into, they want to sell carbon, I guess. So I think now they've changed the name of their overall company to Grassroots Carbon or something. But they're only interested in working with you who've got like 500 acres.
Right. Okay.
Somebody small like me with 80 acres, they're not too interested.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah. So that again, I knew it was going to lead into a discussion, but um, have been out there and have seen you use it when we're walking around the field, and you're like, well, let me look how many days of rest is out here.
well,
You
that's
pull,
the thing. 'Cause, yeah, everybody would ask before, and I'd have all these papers and notebooks, and I'd have to be flipping through. And sometimes I write things down, and I wouldn't put a date on them, and then like, oh, are you kidding me? And you go back through, and you have it all figured out. 2 weeks ago it was 26 days, and now how many? Now you're sitting there counting on your fingers trying to add that into whatever what you have now. But with that app, and so I use it on my computer as well, and I just sync the app to the computer all the time.
and do you think it's easy enough with all of the new fence you're adding in? Is it going to be easy enough to change your paddocks and then still keep information from previous years?
Yeah, I went through and did that already. So basically, I just took those pastures and then cut them in half. And so I went from
Okay.
like 23 pastures to, I think it was, ended up being like 36, because not all those pastures got cut in half. And was still able to retain all that information and so on. The biggest thing with that app is you need to set up like a calendar year, when you want to start your grazing. And because we never stop grazing, it just seems weird to start it over,
Right.
because it'll take all your rest days back to zero. And then,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
then it starts over again because it's a new calendar.
Yep. Yep.
I tend to
Interesting.
just I tend to just let mine go. Now the problem with that is that when you go to make a move, it will it will show you every move you've made in that calendar year. Well, mine's a scribbled mess because it's got several years of info on there, and you can limit it to just the last 5 moves, which I tend to do, but I don't necessarily need to know that information too often, because I'm just using the rest days more than anything else.
Okay. That's the biggest function that you find useful in
Yeah,
there.
because just at a glance, I know, if I want to stay in that, 75 to 90-day window, and I'm starting to get a little antsy on forage, I can kind of look there and say, well, I can start working them back so I can get them down to this pasture, kind of a thing.
Well,
And
especially at like 75 days, but because by the time you get to of your the end of your line, you're probably
yeah,
working closer to 90, depending on when you left. But
yeah. And so that's, like I say, I just can kind of glance at that and kind of know what I need to do and where I need to go, kind of a deal. Um, so I'm looking at that and saying, okay, so if I skip this pasture and I've been in this other pasture about a week, it took me to get across that. So it's a visual aid that I can sit down and kind of figure out where I need to move sheep next to get them down to the barn on that January 10th or January 15th date, that we can separate them out, put the other group back out, and start working to grain this early group for,
Right.
for lambing.
Yeah. So anyway, back to back to getting ready for lambing. And I
Yeah,
should ask, with that app, I when you break it down per ewe, it's not a lot of money, and I
no.
get that. But it doesn't do any other animal management
It
function.
you can go in and you can assign, like I just put mine in groups, so that this group's out there now. I think there's 63 in there. So I put in that there's 63 animals. You could put in 63 individual ear tags numbers if you wanted to. You could put down the
Okay.
individual weights of all the of those animals. With lambs, well, I guess with ewes too, but you could take a group of lambs, put them in there, put the average weight. When you weigh them again, you could put that average weight in. It'll calculate your average daily gain. It'll do a lot of that if you want to take the time to do it.
Okay.
Um,
So if I was grazing some lambs, though,
yes,
it could be beneficial to put in those weights, and it would actually provide some calculations on growth.
right. Yeah, you could put in your individual lamb weights if you wanted to. It's just that that's just a lot of data input that I don't want to do.
And
Uh,
did you
and
say that the
I
input
haven't
is
pulled
user
around.
friendly?
You can There is an option. I'm pretty sure because it's a CSV file, so that's an Excel file that you could upload an Excel file into it,
Okay.
and it would
Okay.
populate all that. I just haven't pulled with it because everybody knows how good I am at Excel.
Right. Right.
I'm really bad at Excel. But I'm in the market for a new PC laptop. That's one of my goals this winter, is to become better at Excel.
To master Excel.
Well, I don't know whether I'll master it, but it wouldn't take much to become better at it.
Okay.
I'm really horrible at it now, but I need to start learning how to use some of it because I do see the benefits to using that.
Nice.
So, but
Nice.
that's pretty much what we're looking to do to kind of get ready for lambing. Just make sure we've got, iodine spray on hand. I think we're gonna order in some Bosey,
Okay.
have that on hand. There's an awful lot of people use it,
Yep.
and
Yeah, it was something we ran into some white muscle, and we could probably go back and reevaluate whether there's a need for it. But ran into some white muscle issue when we were had first started with sheep, so a little while ago, and worked with the veterinarian to discuss what our preventative measures should be, and I believe it was like a quarter cc per lamb, maybe even a half cc per lamb. So we're not giving a whole bunch. That bottle lasts quite a while, and it's something we've had that discussion. We continue
hmm
to provide that, and
Then we'll go through
it's
our antibiotics as well. I know most of our antibiotics are way out of date.
okay, right.
So,
Just throw
now
them away and start over.
yeah, we'll have to get rid of those and start over again.
Yeah. Are there any that, again, not trying to have a vet discussion here, which now that we're talking about it,
Yeah.
might not be a bad idea to have a guest speaker on here with some just veterinary advice on what they would tell you to have in that medicine cabinet during lambing season. But
hmm
is there anything that you always make sure to have during lambing season
Well,
to
I think it's a bit,
treat ewes?
I think it's just a bit of hit and miss because I'm not a veterinarian.
Okay.
Just always try to have some LA 200. And then the last couple of years, we've had some new floor. I don't know if we ever really needed the new floor, but you hit a point where you've got a ewe that's really sick. You kind of tend to throw the kitchen sink at her.
Okay. Yeah, I mean I I understand the thought process, and that you'd really like to like to save her and get her going so she has starts feeding those lambs and really taking care of those
Yeah,
lambs.
you'd like to know, you'd like to be able to say, well, this is what's wrong with her and this is what will fix her. But, I don't have that knowledge most of the time. So it's kind of throwing the kitchen sink at her. The other thing we keep on hand is corn syrup.
Hmm.
Only
Okay.
because we ran into that one ewe that had the
Get
pregnancy
toxemia
toxemia.
every year.
Yep, 2 years in a row, and that's what we used to bring her around the first year. And we started into that the second year, but she didn't make it the second year. And so, in using that, I bought a great big giant like turkey baster kind of a thing that had a great big end on it because that corn syrup is hard to squirt through anything. It is so thick.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like I guess it's like a regular syringe. It's just huge. And then I cut the top off or the point off to make it even bigger so I could get that Cairo syrup in the
Yeah,
back of the
just shove
throat
it
so
down
she
and
would
go.
drink it. But
Yeah, I think what you had mentioned, the iodine, had a discussion, producers fall lambing, and they had called. They had a question about a ewe, and um, like, well, to be honest, I'd just go out and sleeve her and just see what else is in there if there is anything else. And they're like, well, I have some rubber gloves, and it's like, well, that's I I guess you could like scrub, do like a operating room
yeah,
pre-wash situation. I don't necessarily want to do that, but um, you just being prepared, having OB gloves on hand because you're with the hopes that we don't use them. But when we do need them, they're really nice to have. I don't have to put my bare arm in somewhere and I shouldn't be doing it
yeah,
from a human health standpoint, from a um, just a sterile, trying to keep an environment sterile and clean so we don't run into some uterine infection or some metritis. And that's important. So that's kind of where I like to start is like at that lambing. So like that BOSI is an early 24-hour situation, sleeving that and that sleeve. I don't want to say it's useless, but we can cut down on some of the physical trauma caused by sleeving a ewe if we
yeah.
have a an issue with dystocia or a lambing difficulty
Well,
with
then,
with that
are you going
lube.
to use some kind of a soap for lubrication for that sleeve, or what are you going to use?
No soap, just a general lubrication.
Okay.
And we go ahead and buy the gallon jug, put the pump on it, and it's sitting right there. I know, like if I'm going in to sleeve a ewe, um, sleeves are right there. They stay in the box and covered up. And that was something, my internship in the um, in that 5,000 head sow unit
Yeah.
when we were on farrowing. I remember we had a meeting. This is something that just stuck with me all these years. The Most of these sleeves, if you buy a box of 100, they come in a box and they have a flap that will then shut.
Uh huh.
And that cardboard flap, just like on our box of cereal or box of food, whatever's in the pantry, if we don't open it quite right, it rips off and then it won't close anymore. Well, the managing individual of that farrowing unit had noticed that these boxes were missing a lot of these cardboard flaps.
Yeah.
And in turn, you'd see sleeves on top that had dust on them.
Yeah.
Well, again, we know they're not sterile,
Yeah.
but we're trying to keep them as clean as possible because we're taking stuff from outside and putting it inside. In this situation, the sow. But it's something for me. We keep them in a cupboard. We don't just let them set out. Keep them in a cupboard. Keep them covered up, and then lube's right there, so we can grab a sleeve. Usually throw on a pair of rubber gloves along with that, and then if I have to go back in for lamb number, say 2 or 3, I'll actually usually get that lamb out, get them going, cleaned off. I'll usually swap that sleeve out to try to keep things again as clean as possible. But um,
Now, so your gallon jug of lube, how does it do when it's 0 degrees outside?
it's fine.
Do you have an issue with it?
Yeah, it's pretty um, fluid. I mean, it is not. It's not a. I wouldn't call it a jelly, like a petroleum jelly type consistency. It's much more fluid to the point that you really have to cup your hand to hold it because it won't just like stick on
Okay.
your hand. And I think that's the value of the gallon because we've used some um, when we didn't used to have very many sheep, and hopefully it'd be my goal. I didn't have to assist very often, and we don't assist a lot, but um, I think we've had the same gallon jug for 2 years, and
Yeah.
it's a quarter of the way gone. But
The reason
uh,
I ask is, oh, I don't think it was last year. I think I was a little smarter last year, but I think the year before, lamb would be born. I'd grab that lamb, go to put her and mama in a jug, and I'd go to spray that neighbor with my iodine and be frozen solid.
oh
That's
yeah, yeah, and that's the other like
okay. I have to run the iodine up the house and put it
yeah,
in warm water to try to get it to thaw. And
yeah.
I
We
finally
usually
got
keep our
smart.
iodine inside.
Yeah, I finally
Um,
got smart and just brought it in with me. And every time I walked out the barn, I carried my little iodine bottle. And yeah, well, we're
yeah,
coming up on our time here, and
I feel like we didn't cover much, but it was a good discussion, and maybe we need to have a part two on. I feel like we just started talking about
I know,
what we're looking at to get ready for lambing season.
I know.
But as we had mentioned, we've got time, so we've got plenty of time to put it off and put that put that online order or run to the store to get the stuff
Yeah,
until
I think you need to sit down and make yourself a list and just try to cover all your bases. Try to think of everything you might possibly need, and
yep,
just
and
try
you'll
to get
still
all
have
that
stuff.
stuff ordered at the same time. And you end up like me. You go to Premier One, and I think it's $100. You get free shipping, and so you're hunting and hunting and hunting to try to find, that last $18 so you get the free shipping. And
Yep,
then if you hit send and you go to the barn, like, oh, I meant to order this too.
yeah.
Now
The
you're all
nice thing
messed up.
is what
Yep.
I found, OB sleeves don't go bad.
Yeah, that's
So if
true.
I need that extra $18, which I couldn't tell you the last time I
Yeah,
spent less than $100 at Premiere, but that's the frustrating thing is it's
yeah,
usually
I
when
know.
you need a laundry list of stuff, but just throwing in those items that have a long shelf life and you say, well, we're going to use them at some point, but
Yep,
you have to make sure you keep them somewhere you remember you have them
that's
too.
the truth.
too.
So, all right. Well, we thank you for listening to another episode of the Grazing Sheep Podcast. And if you want to reach out to us, you can do that by emailing me at bigtomperkins@gmail.com. There's a Facebook page you can go like and follow. You can leave some comments there as well if you'd like to. So it's been good catching up with you, Cam. And I know it's just 2 days away from Thanksgiving.
I'm
And
getting ready.
I'm getting ready too. I'm
Only eating saltines for the next 48 hours.
Well, I am eating a lot. I'm just trying to stretch my stomach so I can
Oh,
hold more.
maybe that's the route I need to go. That's a good point.
So that's been good talking to you, buddy. We'll catch up with you later.
Sounds good, Tom. Have a good
All
one.
right. Bye.